Morning, colleagues. Firstly, I just wanted to thank UKFIET for convening us this morning. I think this is a great initiative and it's the sort of conversation that we need, so a tribute to them. I also wanted to acknowledge the sterling work of the Global Education Monitoring Report that keeps producing these global reports for us to keep the world accountable to the new goals and the previous ones, and it's a critical contribution to this discussion. And then finally, also to say how welcome we were of the World Development Report, the World Bank doing the report this year on education, because I think that the kind of focus that it brings to this topic, which it hadn't done before, makes an important contribution again to the debate. And also knowing that they've been going around the world convening these sorts of discussions, I think really adds to the heft that people need to think about this issue. I'm going to depart a little bit from the script this morning because I hadn't anticipated talking about this, but some of you will know that, I heard this morning on the news, that Save the Children's office in Jalalabad came under attack. And we don't have very many more details on that, but obviously really devastating for us as Save the Children, and something that we're monitoring very closely. And in a way, I just wanted to indicate that the two biggest programs that that office run are education programs. The UK-funded Girls' Education Challenge that we run in Afghanistan, providing education to girls, and a large-scale home-based early childhood care and education program, both of which I've visited, and I've stayed in that office as a Save the Children staff person supporting our Afghanistan program. And so education is really high stakes in itself, and I wanted to, one, pay tribute to the work of our colleagues and other organisations and the government of Afghanistan in making education possible in that environment, but also raise an issue around accountability for attacks on humanitarian workers and attacks on education. It's obviously not something that has been touched on this morning, but it's a real thing. In fact, we'll release a report this year, because we're part of a big global coalition for the protection of education from attack, that indicates that every school day there are no fewer than 15 life-threatening attacks on education. And this isn't a marginal issue for us within the sector. There are 245 million children, like the children in Afghanistan, who are living in conflict-affected fragile states. So one of my questions to the reports is, what are the implications of this focus on learning on the one hand and accountability for education and learning on the other in conflict-affected fragile states where governance and systems have broken down and education's hard to provide, often deliberately under attack, and specifically challenged. So that would be one of the things I would say in respect to that, and ask you all to hold our colleagues in Afghanistan in your hearts this morning. The other thing I wanted to say too in respect of this learning question is, and we're guilty of this as well, there are lots of things that you can do to promote better learning environments and improve learning. And one of the challenges that we have is answering what's the most important thing to do. And so I think one of the things that, lest it be oversimplified, that we do need to try and work out is where we're going to get the biggest bang for our buck. And I know that's a difficult question, and there will be competing views around that, but I think that we face really big challenges at the country level, both in respect of capacity of governments and the bandwidth of actors to do all of the things that we'd like them to do. And so helping with focus and an evidence base that suggests where that's going to come from will be important. We've been really occupied by the challenge of ensuring early grade reading for children, and we have a body of work in respect of what we call our literacy breakthrough in respect of that, where we've been working in many countries trying to reflect very heavily on how we can support early grade reading achievement. We have a report on that, Lessons in Literacy, that distills 8 principles from our work, which might be something worth thinking about. And then the final thing I'd want to say is back in particular the World Development Report's recommendation that we start earlier. And as Keith said, this is something that's been around for a long time, but we are discovering it again, and the evidence base for it is incontrovertible. But we're not seeing as much action on it as we would like, and that of course is on early childhood care and education. Starting school unready to learn and with the kind of cognitive and other deprivation that the World Development Report slide illustrated really sets children behind. And even if all we do is from a value for money perspective, recognise that that's not a good investment in universal primary education in year 1, where we don't have children who are ready to learn and who face grade repetition and learning loss and drop out in those years, there's a strong case for that, and it's another thing that we'll be working on very heavily in the coming years, which is to really work out how to shift the needle on providing younger children with better quality nurturing care and early learning opportunities before they start primary school.